Recording is recorded. Nice. Cool.
All right.
Hey, Sean. What's up?
Hang on. I have my stylus in my mouth.
Oh, I saw that.
I'm exporting the rescaled figures from ZBrush so that I can get them ready and do some test printing. I mean, that sort of. So we are here in Metal King Studio.
Oh, hey, y'all. Yes, it's
another beautiful day.
Another beautiful day.
The Kickstarter, which we talked about in the last Relicbuds, it happened.
It did happen. It was.
Yeah,
I'm over on the other end, like.
It worked out really well. Like the Worldwide Relicbuds Federation showed up day one and actually followed through for the whole 2-week campaign, and it went awesome.
Absolutely.
And now,
crazy.
Part of that, I tried to, I showed a great deal of self-restraint and discipline, and I didn't add anything crazy as a stretch goal halfway through in a panicked attempt to thank everybody. But I'm working on the Dark Paragons. Those were the add-ons or like stretch goals that we figured out.
Yep.
And I was able to print them. My 3D printer broke, but thankfully I had a backup 3D printer. Well, a new 3D printer.
A nicer one too, huh?
I hadn't set up yet because like setting up 3D printers is not like super straightforward.
Dude, you gotta really you gotta be in the mood.
And so I noticed that one of them, the Dark Watcher lady, Selena Blackstone, she came out a little bit too small. And it's funny because, like, yeah, I mean, well, she should be a little bit shorter than the Dark Wanderer, but there's a difference between being short and being a different scale.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't want someone to be like, have suddenly finer, smaller details just because they're shorter. Like, you know what I mean? You need kind of like, what's a good way to describe it? It's like different resolutions, like having someone be like a cartoony resolution.
Yeah.
And because it prints smaller, it looks more like not realistic, but like the details look smaller. Anyway, so it's very slight. She's like, maybe 5% too small, but to me,
but to your trained eye.
Yeah, and then the pig, or no, not the pig. The pig came out perfect, but the crab.
He was awesome looking.
He's awesome, but he's too big. Like, I don't think I can. Here, I'll hold it up for the. If you're looking on
I'll
YouTube,
try and do some editing. I'll do some edited photo.
3 inches wide.
He's a big guy. He's a wide dude. He's coming in for the crab like hug.
Yeah, so it's cool, but I think if I make him shorter, like just scale him down a bit, he'll still be like really, really wide, but shorter. And I think that'll come out as like a much cooler like weirdness to it, because the shark and the eel are like spindly fish like guys, and so having this guy be like a squatter, gangly crab, I think is going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, I've been thinking it. All right, so yeah, we got that. We're exporting those. I can do a new print today and hopefully get those sent off to get high-res prints made and then get the molds made ASAP.
Yeah, what is this episode 8?
Oh,
I think this is episode 8.
We can't have this conversation live on
if
air.
If it's not 8, then it's 7 or 9. I don't think it's 9. I'm pretty sure it's not 9.
If I click
but we did
folders.
Oh yeah,
this will be 8.
This will be 8. Cool. Because we did last Friday on, I believe it was the 29th, the day of actually it was Thursday. It wasn't Friday. It was the day before.
Our campaign ended Friday morning, so in the last proper 24 hours of the campaign,
we had a little combo stream, and that's over on the Metal King Studio page, where there's 4 hours of kind of this, essentially.
like a full on. That was like legit Hangout session.
Yeah, we were big chilling with lots of the Relic Blade community and chat. People swinging through.
I mean, 4 hours is obviously too long to just like consume on purpose, but having it on in the background while you're painting, that's something. I turned it on to just like see what the quality was like, and then like a half hour later, Sarah walked in. She's like, "Are you watching your own video?" I'm like, "Well, I got distracted. It's fun."
See, yes, we got to relive it a second time because the first time you're not really that aware of it.
Yeah, I mean, I painted 11 miniatures.
It was like
and then I painted all 10 of the
fever dream over there on that side. I was painting up. I finished and painted my. Well, I didn't finish. There's one little vial that I'm missing the back of the Archaeologian. But while you were painting up 10 models, I managed to finish up the small details on one little tiny Archaeologian.
There you go.
Model, but it's closer now. Getting ready for that action, and right now I'm painting the free Warhammer Miniature of the Month Leagues of Votann Space Squat Dwarf guy.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
It is pretty fun. I'm enjoying it. Just taking it chill. Having that Warhammer Miniature of the Month thing, and it'd be like painting one miniature a month that's a GW model. It's kind of nice.
What is that? What is the free miniature?
So each month the Warhammer store, like Warhammer stores, officially branded ones, get sent like a sprue, and it's like a promotional model. And this month was that little Leagues of Votann sprue. You can only really build it one way, but it is like it's a legit little sculpt that comes in the box.
It's just free to anyone that comes in, or are you?
You kind of have to ask it. You kind of have to ask it. They're not like handing them out, but yeah, if you go in and be like, I want the free Warhammer Miniature of the Month, this should if they have some available, they will hook it up. And
that's cool.
And last month was the Rotmeyer Creed.
That's right.
Warcry guy. So
which I painted a whole set of those guys.
You did, yeah. You absolutely did.
And I painted all of the bull guys from that set.
I played for the first time on that terrain, and it was cool when I saw it, when they announced it. I was like, that's cool. But I wasn't super sold on it. But playing on it in person, I was like, wow, this is kind of cool looking. There's a lot bigger. I kind of
wish the walkways were wider so that you could have guys fight on them better, but at the same time, when it comes to Age of Sigmar, like how wide is wide enough when you got guys on 40+ millimeter bases?
Yeah, right.
So like, because I would imagine like, well, 2 inches is good because then like 225s can like fight side by side, or you can like theoretically get 2 guys next to each other. But if they're on 28s or 32s or 40s, like forget it.
Yeah, I played the games that I played. They were on that terrain, but neither of them involved like interacting with getting on any of the platforms or going across bridges. And while playing, I was happy because I was like, I'm gonna lose this game if there's anything up on any of this stuff. Like, my guys cannot move fast enough to do anything about it.
That was what happened to us. We were playing, and some dwarves were trying to dislodge elves that were hiding up in the trees, and it's just like, no. I didn't have to do anything. All I had to, and then also there's a fun rule in Warcry that if you get hit, or maybe it's take damage, but if you get hit and you're standing within an inch of an edge, that you have to test to see if you fall. And so he kept finally getting a guy up on the rope bridge, and then my hammer elf would give him a bonk, do no damage, but then he'd fall.
Oh no, just a push. The gentle push. Oh my gosh.
But actually later we discovered there's a rule where you can climb and fight while climbing and then fall back down. So he could have just had everyone at the base of the tree, one action to climb, one action to punch.
Well, it's interesting because
it would have been sloppy, but it'd be a way to represent it.
In miniature games, like trying to abstract those like certain movement things and like sequences is a pretty strange thing to do. And there's several rules in Warcry that I think are interesting, that if they didn't explain via a diagram, I would never even think that was possible. And that's one of
or
them.
like you wouldn't know what they were trying to get at, because they don't want to spend the half hour explaining. I played a game once, and a guy was standing in a place that we couldn't reach. Like I have that rule in Relicblade, forcing action, which is
The
just like
force action, yeah.
if your guy is standing in a way that you can't get to him, you can spend an AD to force them to be standing in a way that. Yeah. Anyways, it's sort of a corner case that like almost never comes out because of the terrain I use.
Yeah, same.
It's a funny thing where like, is it really worth writing?
The protect your friends rule of Relic Blade is a really crucial thing, and our buddy, Tabletop Mert Michael, this weekend was out there in Florida, spearheading a crazy campaign over the weekend at, I believe it's called Crucible Con. Don't really know anything about the convention itself, but
I've heard of it, but I haven't been.
It looked amazing.
Yeah. I wonder. All right, so we're hanging out. It's Relicbuds. We're keeping it pretty loose. Format wise, I would say Kickstarter. I'm wrapping up some of the final production stuff, and I'll be sending the book to print and the cards to print. I just need to do some drawings of the Paragon characters for their character cards. But before I do that, I need to make sure that like my garage is reorganized, because over the course of the Kickstarter campaign, like everything's sold out on my website.
Yeah.
So like,
thank you all for that, by the way.
Buying it, which was awesome, but now I need to find a way to sort all these metal models that have arrived.
Yeah, and you gotta restock
part
too.
Of it, but I've got to do it. I think I'll do those illustrations and get all that sorted out, because I'd love to order cards, but then it also gets complicated where like I have to make sure I'm restocking cards, and because you have to order so many at once, I really have to be like hyper vigilant and make sure I'm restocking the right stuff, because I think Lostwood and Muldorf set card packs are like gone, and so I'll need to add that to the card order.
Dang.
Anyways, it's fun. And then also I've made some changes to cards based on some feedback from Catacombs of Crawl, and so I'll need to make sure all the monster cards and stuff are reflecting those changes. I think it's really minor stuff, but like mostly graphic design changes. Just to make it so everything like kind of matches people's expectations. Because if you subvert expectation, it can just slow down the flow of play. If you're, I don't know. I just want to make it as readable as possible.
Yeah, and I mean, we're kind of setting a little new precedent with some of the monster cards and character cards, and there's a little bit of new challenges presenting themselves in those regards.
Yeah, but I think it's really promising stuff.
Yes, I like.
I have the packaging for the Ogsul and for the card packs already in stock. I got the first shipment of Ogsul miniatures, so I have the first 100 sets that are in my garage ready to get sorted.
Ooh.
So that's cool. I'm certain I have enough bases because I bought all of the bases.
Just bought them out.
That company had. And yeah, there's other stuff too, but yeah, work-wise, the Kickstarter's underway, and that's exciting. It feels really good to have like clear goals and a clear timeline forming for that. And then as far as other stuff, I spent a bunch of time hanging out with Mike Hutchinson.
Yeah. This last week,
and so there was like a lot of game design talk. Also figuring out like exactly some of my blaster contribution. I think I want to do a Relic Blade solo adventure, but that I need to like have written a month ago, and I'm been trying to get the Kickstarter.
Yeah, the Kickstarter was a little bit. It wasn't necessarily unplanned for, but it was a little bit impromptu. And yeah, but at
Yeah,
the
like
same
everything was
time,
ready, but I wasn't necessarily aiming just for
yeah,
Kickstarter
or we were like,
because I
what are we
knew
gonna
I'd need
do?
to release it. But then now I'm really grateful because I
Yeah.
think I
Oh
just
my
wouldn't have
goodness.
been able to meet demand. If I had put it up, I would have
The
spent all
support
of my
is
money
crazy.
trying to make a little bit and then sold out of it, and then people would be bummed out.
So
So
that being the case, let's for those that are just tuning in, have
uh,
been living under a rock, tell us about how the Kickstarter ended
oh yeah,
versus its
we
goals.
reached 100,000, which is like a really good, like that's a cool milestone, I think.
Absolutely.
I feel really good about that. Um, and then I structured this Kickstarter so that I would hopefully fulfillment will be pretty straightforward. Like one of the things that ended up more than doubling the amount of time I had to spend fulfilling the last Kickstarter was that I was letting people add stuff from the rest of the Relic Blade range.
Yeah, the
And so
store.
every single order I packed, or every single pledge reward I packed was like a bizarre custom order
Yep.
where people were like, I want just the cards of this, and I want the head of that guy, and it just like got so
I
complicated
want
that
the head of
I'd be
that guy.
spending like an hour or more per person, and I had almost 1,000 pledges.
Yeah, it was
And that's not,
crazy.
and that's if everything is already sorted and packed, right? So that's just packing the order, not like the time it takes to sort those models into baggies and with bases and cards and all of that stuff. So, anyways, one of the things I've done here is tried to make sure that there are a limited number of options so that I can have those options ready and ship the orders more quickly. Right now I don't have it yet. I don't have everything yet. Like I said, it's not all sorted and printed. But once it is, I should be able to fulfill relatively quickly. And that also means that because I want to fulfill really quickly, I won't be doing any late pledges or, nothing complicated to extend it. What I'll do is instead is once the Kickstarter is shipped, it'll just be on relicblade.com. So
Yep.
instead of a late pledge, it'll just be general release, and
Just
hopefully
buy it.
without
Yeah.
late pledges, we can get there more quickly. And the nice
Yeah.
thing about ordering it on the store is then you can add other stuff. So if you did want to get, just the book or just the cards or just the models plus a pack of Moldorfs, like hopefully we can do that. From relicblade.com, you can do any combination of things. Whereas for the Kickstarter, it's really
The
about
Relic Blade
more
range
limited.
is your oyster at relicblade.com.
Yeah, sort of, except it's being harder to keep inventory in stock. But yeah. So also, if it's in stock, you should order.
Yes. It's some hot goods.
Mm-hmm. Like I realized I restocked the Moldorfs on the website, but I'm running out of Moldorf cards. So I need to like try and dig through my studio and find out how many I actually have, because selling the figures without the cards isn't the faction set, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think I might only have 7 in stock, even though I ordered 50 sets of figures.
Of figures, yeah, and it's just like logistics stuff. It's a lot of things to freaking balance, and I mean,
Especially for a guy like me that's not a very like numbers oriented.
yeah, not a business, yeah, like the creative artist, that's all this sort
Less
of
of an
like
accountant, more of a
exactly. I'm with you, bro.
university
I'm the
wizard.
same way. There is no a lot of that stuff is just loose in the gray matter.
Yeah.
I like that stuff. I'm interested in it, but yeah, actually like making it a part of my habit to be like, oh yes, okay, let me write down the
Yeah. I
expenses
do
for
it.
today.
I do it like once or twice a week. I'll dig through my inventory and count figures and make sure the inventory is matched. But after a convention, because I'm not selling from the inventory on the website, like everything gets totally jumbled
Mm-hmm.
again.
Just
If I sold 20 Bone and Darkness sets, then I don't I didn't keep track of that, or maybe I sold some and gave one away, or I don't know, lost a bunch of them.
I know. I was just about to say, like, when it comes to like when Sean said he's gonna go search to see how much Moldorf card sets he has, that's not necessarily leaving out looking under the table or something. Like it is like literally where could it be?
Yeah.
It could be.
Like I was totally sold out of Storms of Corral, and I was panicking, and then I found a box that had like 40 box sets in it still. But it wasn't marked. It was just a big cardboard box in the corner.
Oh, wait, what was that before they got sold out again?
It was months ago.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So, pretty fun. They're all gone now. We're sold out. Now I think I could maybe scrounge together one or two sets by digging through like loose figures or but
the storms of Corral Asterix.
Yeah.
The special scrounge edition.
Yeah, hopefully those will restock before too long.
Yeah.
Because they're like my main.
Because they're super rad. I've been getting now that we have dropped, because when we launched the Kickstarter, it was for the Storms of Corral, and we stayed good to the word, released it for free to everybody who backed it. And this, over the course of these last 2 weeks, it's been really exciting for me to see everyone crafting their terrain. There's been lots of
so cool.
All sorts of different styles, but because it's kind of like familiar, because there's sort of like those instructions that you illustrated, it's like you can see it. It's like that's a Catacombs dungeon set. Like, people are crafting these.
I wanted to, we needed a foundation to build on. To like have the scenarios. Otherwise it's just a blank 2 foot by 2 foot, and like you place objectives and tell people to get creative, and that's not really what we want, because we wanted to have like puzzle rooms. So, and you can't just tell people, set up this and hopefully it'll work. Anyways, I mean, I guess you could, but we wanted to be specific, and so the terrain being built off of those platforms, like, or the rooms being 2 inches tall, but like basically they're various shaped rectangles and squares. It makes it so that it's simple enough that it's not really it's like a good first terrain build.
Yeah,
I think, like, in a lot of ways, for someone that like wants to try building terrain, they've been watching Black Magic Craft, they want to like dip their toes in it. Like, it's a really, really good set for that, because it gives you, you get to make the bridges, and so you got to stretch out with some like balsa wood or whatever.
The popsicle sticks start coming out.
Yeah, popsicle sticks, some paste.
The old
make a
school
stone texture, or you can make a gridded texture if you want. Yeah. So that's really fun. I'm excited to see more as people build more.
Yeah, the other thing that I think is interesting about it too is because we released it for free to the previous backers, but you were also nice enough to put it up, just $10 PDF, put it up, and I know people got down, and I was seeing people posting up some of their games with like kind of proxy Ogsul figures for the time being, as their, the pledges start coming in. And I've just been hearing people say such nice things about it, and I'm like, it's cool to read about people having, like, I read one comment that said that they had kind of like a RP session, like it gave them that same kind of feel of like a really heady, involved role play session. And also, someone even used the word genius when describing the activation chart. And I was like, whoa, activation chart is genius, huh? Well, it is pretty cool. There's a lot of cool things we could do with it. But yeah, it's been cool. Like I was saying, there's you know, as we let these kind of designs out, it's really fun to see them interact with the wild and to see all these other people's interpretations and imaginations when it comes to the catacombs and what it could be for their playgroup and stuff.
Yeah, and I hope that we can, you know, the plan is definitely to deliver more adventures.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
And so that's like kind of in my you know I've got a lot of things on my plate to try and deliver, but I think that that's something that we have the infrastructure for, you know, and we're ready to put some more adventures out. Maybe tell some of the story of what happened when the Ogsul started like raiding through and coming in contact with encampments and little cities, and like kind of tell some of those adventures. Or maybe maybe more Volglands centered things, like have some battle pigs coming through. Or
I think when we talk about Relic Blade is sort of a foundation for storytelling, and going back to mentioning Tabletop Mercs campaign efforts this weekend. In a previous episodes of Relicbuds, we've talked about campaign craft and like what you can do, and Merc was telling me about the campaign that he like had crafted for the event, you know, and I was just like, wow, it's such a wicked kind of inventive idea for this thing that involved 3 tables all interacting with each other and stuff like that. And when it comes to sort of the seminal stories of Relic Blade, we've got a lot of really great stories, I think, to mine out from said relics. You know, it's in the name.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
We got all these cool relics, you know. Who is the Stormlord? You know, who's why does the Renegade have a javelin? You know, we do have a little bit of info about like Saint Agatha's kettle. There's a little bit of info about Saint Agatha herself. She's very, very important character. She did really cool things. But yeah, we've got a lot of I jokingly kind of compared Relic Blade at its current stage. I'm like, we're about to enter the MCU phase of the Relic Blade universe, where we've got all of these characters, all of these settings, all of these things, you know, that we're like, we, you know, like you said, the word foundation, and it just really reminds me of that. And it's like, yes, a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, man. So that's been really exciting. And as far as Metal King Studio goes, you know, I've got my work cut out for me delivering this Kickstarter, but I'm feeling good going into it, you know, ready to sort through stuff. I will need to try to get some friends to come out and help me actually put minis in baggies.
Yeah, I want to do that. So we'll definitely have to coordinate when that can happen.
Yeah, man.
Because I'd love to go out there and we can sort baggies, and then, you know, we've talked about in other episodes too how the creative storms can just occur. I think sorting through baggies will allow us to daydream a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, it's great to be able to do that stuff in person sometimes, which was a really cool thing about Hangout, and, you know, being able to play test each other's games and sort of imagine and give feedback and receive feedback. Yeah, because we actually busted out Cretaceous Commandos and played that a bit.
Yeah.
And like really messed around with the game mechanics, trying to make sure they align with the goal of the game, of having that like
Cretaceous Commandos. Did we mention? I think we mentioned that in either our first or second.
Oh yeah, it was the first one, because I was having like I think it's episode 1 is called Commando Panic, because I was having one of those like manic episodes where I just like have to make write it as fast as I can and sculpt as fast as I can to keep up with what's happening in me. So
Yeah. And
what a beautiful thing to have happen sometimes. The
you
rest of the
know,
time just being like a slug trying to get through the day.
I was looking through my photos trying to just kind of find some things. Man, I am like, when I go back through them and I hit Adepticon and KublaCon, I'm seriously like, that was this year?
I know.
Crazy. When? I was like, for whatever reason, 2 months, it just feels like an eternity. Like, I really am like, wow, it just doesn't feel like we've traveled that. And also, while scrolling back to those things, I think I ended up going to November and seeing a post where I was in the garage and I was like pointing to you, like moving around some Oxul figures, and I was just thinking, oh my gosh, like that's right, like that was last November.
Yeah,
was when I came over and like had the file and stuff, and then we like opened it and it was like, okay,
right, because like I couldn't even like really look at it.
Yeah,
while I was trying to deal with actually shipping the Kickstarter, because I was just like in over my head for like 6 months.
And
just
so
shipping orders.
It made the pilgrimage, and I was like, okay, you know, we'll get into the game, we'll talk about it, we'll play it, you know. And it was like, yeah, it was kind of like me being like, okay, these are all these ideas, Sean, I'm gonna like present them to you, you know, we'll go through it. And it's like, it sort of just dawned on me. I was like, wow, like that's right. Like, man, we've been working on this and we talked about that we've been working on it for a long time. Like you mentioned that in the thing, but just, yeah, dawns, you know, and it's just interesting to think about the way that, like we kind of talk about, it took a while, it took so long to like kind of manifest and really get all these pieces to come into, you know, get collected in a way that we knew how to present it. But man, I'm like so stoked that we did, because it just won't be a repeat of that. Like this concept of being like, okay, the next solo adventure deliverable April 2023, you know, like, yeah, it's like these ideas and these things are not going to be taking years anymore, because we took that time to like really figure it out.
But at the same time, like knowing me, like I remember early on trying to figure out like, oh, I want to make one more Relic Blade guy, I want to make him, but feeling like I needed to like really have it be like new in a really exciting way, and feeling like I didn't want to just make like guy with sword 2, even though like for me as a collector and consumer of games, I'm like, oh, guy with sword 2, yeah, give me guy with sword 8 through 34.
Yeah, I love guy with sword 2.
But I'm so like, I'm so strict with myself about like needing
it is very weird, like
novel
that, right?
and exciting and really good. And so yeah, it's been funny to feel like, oh, this is taking so long, but realizing at the same time like we've developed something that like really redefines Relic Blade and the fun that can happen with the set, with the cards, with the figures, without changing into like a new edition.
Yeah,
it's format.
Yeah, that's
for adventure. It's very cool.
I definitely think so, and I'm excited just from like this perspective of making kind of new and cool tabletop things. You know, like I joined a solo board gamers group on Facebook, and that really opened my eyes to like this hidden world of, there's a lot of people publishing kind of like roll and write games and these novel style adventures that, you know, you're like reading whole books while also taking notes and role playing and keeping track of inventory and all this just tins, like games that come in like gum mint tins and stuff, and really small pocket games that are like, but still have this crazy cool complexity or fun theme that are just like these little one single dice engine games and stuff. And all these cool little things that people go wild for just because they're like neat, novel ideas that actually do manage to provide cool things. And it really has this kind of like punk rock doing cool things because they're cool, not necessarily because it's like just, you know, the thing that everyone else is doing or whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's so much I don't know about solo gaming.
Yeah, no, and it's really kind of like not necessarily like a new thing, because it makes me think of like way back in the day. I know that people used to role play like via mail. Like they would like write letters and be like, oh, my character does this, you know, seal the envelope, put it in the mail, and then send it off to the GM. GM would be like, oh, okay, cool, blah blah blah, write the response, and then like, and that would be happening with a group of people that are like somehow snail mailing their role play sessions. And I mean, this is like early, I think, like, you know, 70s and 80s, or maybe even earlier stuff, like the very kind of beginning of these concepts. And maybe, I'm sure it still happens today too. And the way that role playing is kind of exploded, you know, over the past couple of years. It's, who knows what's possible with that crazy medium.
Very cool. It's an exciting time. There's so much stuff, which really can be more intimidating as a creator to feel like you're like, what do I have to add to the conversation? But also at the same time, you can remember, you know, I try to be creating stuff that's like true to my taste and true to my intentions and true to my like artistic goals, so that I'm not contributing what I think people want and more contributing. And so if you're consuming it, or yeah, if you're a supporter or a player of Relic Blade, that you'll be getting something that, you know, you can't really get anywhere. Whether it's I mean, you know, I want it, whether it's better than anything else is a matter of taste.
Yeah.
but at least it'll be unique, and I'll be, you know, doing my best to make it.
That's the
very
thing.
cool,
It's I feel like, you know, these sorts of thoughts are like so normal, but then there's this other part of me that's kind of noticing this. I guess it's just a trend, or you could just say it's human behavior or something, but in the prevalence of our incredibly like saturated with entertainment media world that we live in, where you can be at any time playing like 12 video games and 12 board games, watching 12 shows on 12 different streaming platforms while on 12 different social media networks, that this like idea of like, because when I think about making something that people enjoy, and like you're saying, kind of coming from your own perspective, making something that you would want, I think about like, yeah, these weird like, oh, I want to make something that feels collectible and has like meaning and someone will really cherish or something like that. And then I sort of wonder, looking at this this world that we live in, and how people will like love shows. Oh, I absolutely love this show. Like we were talking about Midnight Mass, that we really enjoyed Midnight Mass, and how I'm like, yes, I absolutely love that show. But when it comes to like rewatching it, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to rewatch it anytime soon, because there's a bazillion other things that I can watch, or I might just not have time to watch anything. But it's like, it doesn't change that I really like it, really loved that show. But it's just interesting because I'm not really gonna be interacting with it, you know. I'm not gonna be like collecting Midnight Mass posters, or trying to really figure much about the show. I just sort of like consumed the show, really enjoyed it, wow, that's great, and then I like kind of left it there, you know. And so I wonder if it's a very similar thing for people who, you know, are in the middle of, you know, playing 3 Warhammer IP games from Games Workshop, collecting like a set of board games that they can play with their like spouse and their children. They've got the 3 miniature war game projects that they play with their boys, and then there's also Relic Blade. And it's like
true. And like a guy on the Relic Blade group was like, "Oh, I ordered some Relic Blade stuff, and already I want to order more." And for me, it was like, that's rad. I'm stoked that I got that level of enthusiasm. But also, like, the way you engage with the hobby at all, like, there's so many ways to enjoy it. And, one of the things I do with Games Workshop products is I'll, like, buy those 2-player sets, paint both sides, and then feel like I had a fun time.
Like you did a thing, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, that I painted the 2 sides, or like with Warcry 2 sides in terrain, like that's cool, And if I play it a couple times, like that's cool too. But it's not really like the dollar for dollar value of entertainment starts with the fun of holding the box at the store. You know what I mean? Like it's
for me, it's that
the value of the fun also is peeling off the shrink wrap, looking at the components, looking at the sprues,
the smells,
the booklets, the smells, the clipping them, gluing them, painting them, sticking them together, being frustrated with the middle part where you're like everything's just a blob, and then being so delighted once it's all laying out in front of you painted. Having a friend come over, throwing dice at each other, figuring out a new rule set, hitting guys with a hammer. And then, so for me, that level of entertainment is the hobby starts when I see it on the shelf, or I click add to cart online, right? And the hobby continues all the way to like standing there brushing my teeth in front of a display case and going, "Oh, cool! Look at that little guy."
Yeah, bro. It's interesting because I will look, and it really only happens with. And I want to make a note of this because I want to like talk about this in a future episode of Relicbuds, but it really makes me think about what's interesting about our hobby. But painting a model was always an enjoyable experience. But if I find myself playing like a game with a model that I've already labored quite a lot of time, because I generally never ever play unpainted unless I'm playing like a board game where I'm like, I can't be bothered.
I like don't tell anyone, but like I won't even play test Relic Blade without like a sculpted painted figure.
Bro, no, we are the same person when it comes to that, and it's the same.
I want art on the card before I have to engage with it.
We've had a couple of times with a little bit of like quickly drawn, cards, but usually it's at least getting, because you can draw it, you'll be like, okay, we're gonna play in 30 minutes. Print it out. So it will be as bootleg as Sean's sketch at the very least, but y'all already know how that is. But when it comes to playing with the models painted or not, like, because I don't really ever do it, there's still a distinction between like a model that I'll paint and just be chilling over here or on the shelf or something. Because when I actually play a game with the model and sort of develop, for lack of a better term, develop a relationship via like memories and performance that the model did, like that is strangely enough. So that when I think about like the enjoyment of the hobby, like the value for me, it's discovering that, because it's almost like, for me, there's almost this, I don't think about it in this frame, but it sort of comes retroactively as I experience the playing a game. But as I paint figures, I'm kind of like character creating almost, thinking about their background and the things that they're doing or gone through, or some sculpts will just like really just give you a story, or be making you make noises the whole time. You're like, ugh, or because he's making a crazy face or something, or doing like a punch or something, and it sort of comes to life in your mind as you paint it. And then when you put it on the table and then you start like actually rolling dice connected with the mechanics to you know, bring about these actions and resolve things, then it really does give you this kind of like this sense of, I have brought a character to life in my head and then like seen them act out in like a weird mini movie.
Yeah, it's true, because
I like seeing that, you
yeah.
know, like I like, whoa, that's cool. That guy, I would have never imagined that Sigmar dude to shield bash that guy and then double crit stab for 12 damage. Whoa, you know, and now
I got that elf wizard that's on a cloud. It's a Lumineth figure. He's a little wizard, flying around on a cloud like a Goku, Son Goku.
Yep.
And
Nimbus.
I bought it and I assembled it and painted it. Fun. And I played Warcry with it, and the rules in Warcry are simplified in a way that kind of took away flavor for me, which is kind of a bummer. If his special attack was just called like Wind Nexus or like something, and then maybe I would have like, I'm shooting you with winds. But when Mike was over, we were play testing his game Hobgoblin a bunch, and he had that wind wizard with the wind magic rules from his game, and
like the game had wind magic in it.
Yeah, in Hobgoblin. Cool. Yeah. So he had like a unit of elf spearmen with this sorcerer in it, and they like marched forward, but then he cast this big gust of wind that lifted up his general and his retinue of soldiers and placed it behind the enemy lines so that he had like a full envelopment. Dang. And I was just like, dude, like all of my dreams of what this wizard can do have been fulfilled. Like, I'm so stuck. Like the whole story came together. I was like, this was worth it. My whole full circle. Like, I don't know if maybe there's like a pie chart or some other graphical representation of that journey I'm talking about, where like you see the box, you open the box, you see the sprues, you cut the sprues, you glue it, you put some basing, you spray paint it, you paint it, you imagine, and that gets it mostly filled in. But that was it, like the last 10% or 20% just like immediately boop, with seeing that wizard perform well in a thematic way and in a game that like is really exciting. Like,
that is cool. Man, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all
so
about.
I guess coming back around, that guy being like, oh well, do I buy more Relic Blade? You know, people who engage with Relic Blade as they collect it and they like that it's an indie artist thing, and when they get it, they put it on the shelf with other like
cool curios and stuff,
curiosities or things that their friends made, right? They think of it as like, this is cool because it's just like this one guy in Denmark that makes it, you know, like that. You know, I have stuff like that. Oh, this is cool. Like this band is cool because they're like, you know, obscure, like making music in this weird way.
They're still putting out cassettes or something.
I got so you end up with these like fun little items, and people who engage with Relic Blade like that are still a really important part of the Relic Blade community.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to be full on running events at Crucible with an amazing setup with amazing terrain. Like that is next level, like amazing Relic Bud level energy. But the truth is, like, to be an important part of Relic Blade community, people who just put their Relic Blade book next to a bunch of other weird indie RPG books that they aren't planning on playing, like they're still a cool part of the community, you know?
Yeah.
Because they believe in it enough to think it's cool, you know?
And if you do have your Relic Blade stuff on like a cool shelf like that, please do share it in the Facebook group, because I would love to see
that'd be rad. Just see it next to your Simba Room RPG.
Yeah, all types of cool stuff. That kind of thing.
I mean, hopefully, you know, I also really push to make Relic Blade playable. with just, you know, a few figures, small space.
Yeah, because again, going back to,
because it's super fun, but it also, like, you have to like playing miniature games.
Yes, yeah, miniature games.
Because like my wife has played, but it's not like she's suddenly gonna become a miniature war gamer.
Yeah, that's it does take a certain style to like the abstraction of adventure combat. Yeah. But at the same time, that's why, like, kind of talking about, you know, the foundation for solo adventures is interesting, because we get to kind of wrestle with those ideas and say, like, ask something like, if Relic Blade's very combat driven, like, what's a non-combat driven scenario look like exactly? Yeah. You know, is it, you know, and it sort of goes into this sort of RPG, kind of reminds me of the sort of RPG-esque encounter design, which really blasts open the doors for all sorts of cool things.
Yeah, that's just a big book, you know, to be able to explain all of the nuance of even just like creating a Relic Blade character, a world that has so many playable races and so many. I mean, we could do it, and I hope that we will. But, you know, I think Relic Blade Solo is the evolution that I really want for, like, the tactics RPG.
It's gonna, yes, the isometric kind of. There's a couple of games like that that you've talked about. I think it was called Triangle Tactics.
Oh yeah, Triangle Strategy.
Triangle
which is
Strategy.
Like, it's a lot like, you know. Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yes, the Final Fantasy. That's
Tactics
the one.
Ogre.
There's a couple of ones, because I had a DS. Well, was it a Game Boy DS? No, I think it was a Game Boy. A Game Boy SP is what it was. It was like the little flip color one backlit. And I had a game on it called Advance Wars. And man, I thought Advance Wars was really cool. Because it was
really cool, of course.
It had that.
Everyone listening to this is like, oh yeah, I played the heck out of it.
Dude, Advance Wars, because there's like, when I think about, you know, coming to like where we are now, playing like these sorts of games and being interested in this kind of stuff. When I was growing up, like, I kind of grew up with Sega and Nintendo, but I was definitely way more of like a Sega kid, because I didn't like the stuff that was, like, I guess, for kids. So, you know, I would want to play.
What's that Shinobi game? The guy with the red scarf. Isn't that a Sega game?
That is a Sega game, yeah, on the PlayStation. That was a Sega franchise one. But like, just comparing Genesis to like Super Nintendo, there was like, I always felt as a little scrappy kid being like, ooh, Sega's got like blood and stuff. Like, I like these games on Sega because they had Golden Axe, you know, Alien Storm. I was playing a lot of games where you were like fighting and shooting, killing, and that sort of stuff like that. And then on top of that, I'd be playing like tons of like football games. And football was something that I grew up with. And it sort of served as, because I may have mentioned in the past, but I like football because it's super easy for me to just watch a single play of football and get like the enjoyment out of it. Because I can go, oh, cool. Like, they tried this play. Oh, like, did it work? Didn't it work? Like, all these things. And then I can be like, cool, see ya. And then just like walk away and maybe like come back later, look at another thing. And there was this element, I'm like sort of realizing that the games that I like to play were, you know, like I said, Golden Axe was a big one. Like, when I was growing up, I had just my one buddy, Bryson, who I was kind of playing games with, and we'd play like couch co-op games, and playing Golden Axe, that was like the big vibe, because I was just like I always want to be that dwarf guy with the double-headed axe and just chop and go on adventures. And then crossing that to playing football games, football is sort of like, is kind of like the strategy element. There's less of a direct combat kind of thing to that. And as I progressed through time all the way to now, the interest in games, I think, is quite interesting, because I wasn't even interested beyond Golden Axe, strangely enough. Fantasy, like the concept of fantasy, like elves and dwarves and trolls, none of this stuff was like nothingness to me. I didn't even like think about it. And but I did think about sci-fi stuff because I like loved Star Wars, and I knew about this like this genre of science fiction and space and that stuff, and I knew about fantasy stuff because a couple of things that I think about growing up that my dad used to watch used to scare the shit out of me. Jack the Giant Killer, like a old school first colored stop animation motion type Jason and the Argonauts kind of film with this like this sequence I remember of this monster growing. I'd be like, oh my god, you know, being like a 4-year-old just freaking out watching these things. And those were like the only stuff. But I do remember there was something so awesome in that. And just a slight tangent, when the dude goes to like save the girl at the end, there's this hallway. In the hallway, you know how like there's like torch sconces hanging off like the sides of hallways and whatever. In this evil sorcerer's castle, they kind of like had a shield, like a sort of shield motif on the wall, and that it would be like a iron hand holding like a scimitar, and that was kind of like this weird like wall decoration. But because of the way that they looked, you could tell that there was like a guy putting his arm through a thing on the other side of the wall, and like the sorcerer cast the magic on the hallway, and like all of the sword arms like came alive, and my dude had to like fight the walls of it. Just like
I've got to watch this movie.
Do high adventure stuff, you know, like high adventure stuff. But that was the only exposure that I ever had to these kind of things. But that's more like Sinbad kind of stuff, you know. But my friend takes me to see Lord of the Rings for the first time, and I'm literally like, I don't know nothing. He's like, my dad really liked these books. I'm like, cool, there were books, that's cool, you know. And I saw that movie, the first movie, Fellowship of the Ring, and I was just like,
I know, and the opening sequence of that's so good.
And then like life was changed. You know, like I've been like, for some reason now I'm such a fantasy head, and the like, you know, introduction to Relic Blade and these things, like, oh my goodness, going to now. And then
mom,
like
my mom was into Lord of the Rings like shortly after it first was published. And so I grew up like really liking fantasy and not really having a fantasy movie to look to compared to Star Wars, because like to me, in my world, there's like Star Wars and then as sci-fi and Star Trek, because my mom was really into Star Trek also, so it was both kind of harder sci-fi and then also the more fantasy side of Star Wars. And then on the fantasy side, I was like, oh, Lord of the Rings is great, and I really liked swords and sword and sorcery stuff. But you know, as a kid, there wasn't a lot of really good fantasy media that like treated it right. You know, like Willow is fine, it's cool, like we liked it, but like it's pretty silly.
I've never even seen
the Barbarian Willow. is cool and good, but it's less, I don't know, there's a level of like oily bodybuilder.
Yeah, Samaria is not that kind.
Yeah, it's a different vibe than like that other stuff. So I think Warcraft really created a fun fantasy. Like I played a bunch of Warcraft 2, and then when Lord of the Rings, that was really good. And but I guess before Lord of the Rings came out, I was playing Warhammer Fantasy Battles. I think it might have been.
Well,
yeah, I got it before.
Fellowship was in 2001.
Yeah. And so I actually had bought the Orcs versus Humans 5th edition Warhammer Fantasy. I think it was 5th, maybe 6th.
Yeah, I think I want to say that I probably was.
It doesn't matter, but I bought that in 2000, and then 2001 was when Lord of the Rings came out. So that really, those two things though were so different, because like green-skinned orcs with gigantic heads and guys with poofy sleeves shooting guns at them is very different than fighting on the slopes of Mount Doom.
Yeah, and I think I'm assuming that like Weta a workshop was responsible for like the direction and concepting of the designs of those.
It's funny
those
rewatching those movies.
Stuff.
Like the cinematography is like really dark, and like when I was approaching my Lord of the Rings miniature project, which I'm only like halfway through because I only painted the bad guys. If I wanted to paint them like film accurate, you've got to just dry brush them and put a dark wash over them because there's so little color for the film.
Yeah, no, they made, as someone who like watched the first one and I like was just a fresh-eyed fantasy, like fresh to fantasy. Yeah, it was the perfect balance of like gritty believability, you know, like when they're first running away from the ring race, and I have not even a clue about what a ring wraith is.
That's when they were just Dark Riders.
And and I was just like, like the tone of that movie when they leave the Shire, and then it's like, okay, it's kind of dangerous now. It actually reminds me, thinking just about that, this last weekend, I played, I GM'd a Morkborg session for people that I know, but effectively strangers, not people in my immediate like friend group. And I ran into a segment where one of the group kind of split, and this character was going off and doing something dangerous. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh no, this is dangerous. This is that he's going off by himself. And then because I was thinking about it like almost in this weird meta way where I was outside of the game and I was thinking about just the idea of a person doing what he did, you know, going where, and I was like, that's dangerous. And then then I kind of snapped back to my GM mind and I'm like, oh no, I need to like watch out. I'm like, I gotta watch out. Like I gotta mitigate or I gotta protect or something. And then I'm like, no, it's dangerous. It's like dangerous. Like that's just in the way that when they left the Shire, it's like not like it's dangerous now, you know, like things are trying to kill you, you know, like, and so it just occurred to me, and it was a good moment to have because I was like, that's not my role as the GM. Like he did that. I didn't do that.
You could tell him that he like sick with fear or something.
Yeah, I could describe it, but I was like, that's danger, you know, if we're playing a game, you know, and it was just like one of those moments to really solidify, this is like why people like role playing, because this is the interesting, like, kind of, you're thinking about these things and you're like, that's kind of dangerous, you know.
Yeah, I love that in role-playing games, how you can, I don't know, it's easy in a role-playing session to feel like you're in a loading screen of the Matrix and everything's just white. And the character's standing in void. And then the DM is like, you're in a field, and like you're imagining a field. Like, but my favorite thing is when you feel like you're on a stage, but then you can walk back or walk into areas that you weren't really supposed to go to. And that's when you realize that with a good DM, there are no tracks, there are no hidden walls, invisible walls. Like you can end up uncovering like weird secrets or like fiddling around with things behind the scenes and like going places where you weren't supposed to go, but have it be like woven into an exciting story. I really like that. I don't role play enough. I really gotta get. I think that my daughter and her friends would be into it, and I know another one of my friends, his daughter, Cora, like she really liked playing DCC.
Really?
So, Dungeon Crawl Classic.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So like I think, we'll have to set up a session. Get a bunch of.
Yeah, man, the world of because playing Morporg and sharing that stuff, a lot of people have been hitting me up and saying like, yeah, I've just only kind of heard about this, and I've been kind of interested in it. You know, how does it compare to D&D or something? Well, people will be saying that, and I'm just like, man, it's very different. Yeah, but it's very stripped down, very approachable.
In some ways, it's more playable than D&D.
That's how I view it.
Like, you could spend hours doing character creation on D&D, or you will.
Yeah, you will.
And
you probably should.
But maybe that not. Depth of having like charts of how your character advances and unlocking skills, like that adds a level of gamified fun of unlocking new stuff that Morkborg doesn't really do.
Yeah, it's really
but what Morkborg does do is like character creation is a discovery process that's weird, and you enter a world that is imminently
doomed
to death throes of doom, and your character probably won't live long enough to see the end of the world, even as imminently dying. And but there's still all this like cryptic fantasy, like dark foggy zones of like marshlands and mountains and ruins to explore, and the book does a really good job of evoking all that. And so in a lot of ways it's more playable than D&D, but at the same time
that's why I've been getting down on it.
But it's at the same time it's not loading up World of Warcraft and clicking character create and like seeing an elf and then clicking I want to play as the archer. And like choosing your name. Like it's less of that like fun World of Warcrafty fantasy or Baldur's Gate, sort of video game experience, and more of a like you don't need all those stats and skills because you're just a wretch.
Yeah, you're just a dude with like a leg bone.
Yeah.
Who's
it's not quite but that said, like if you played Warhammer roleplay, like the older one, I don't know if I think there's a new one with like Age of Sigmar.
There is a couple of new ones, and I know they're not based on the old system.
But the old system was like punishing in a way that was sort of funny, but not very playable. Like because you really would end up like no legs. Whereas in Morkborg, you are someone that can adventures. It's just that if a goblin bites you and you don't kill that goblin within 24 hours, you'll turn into a. So your characters can die real easy.
Yeah.
But at least you do start with both of your thumbs.
Both of your thumbs. Yeah, I think I got recently kickstarted a project like last year, and it just was delivered last week. The Blackbirds RPG, and that's powered by Zweihander, which I think the Zweihander system is what the old Warhammer Fantasy system was. And after reading through that,
I think it's at least influenced by. I don't know. Is it? I guess I shouldn't even comment.
Yeah, I don't know because
I don't know the history of it.
Like I was saying, the weird world of RPGs I believe is so big.
Since this is an audio production, it should be pronounced something like Zweihander.
Zweihander. That is true, huh? I'd be just looking at words.
But don't worry, reading is fun, and you can't be expected to pronounce things in all the different languages.
Yeah, that's true. I do like doing that, but yeah, things just get like generalized in the mind sometimes. Oh, Zweihander. Yeah.
No, like there's an old saying, like if someone mispronounces a word, it's because they learned words by reading. It's not just their job.
Yeah, and English teaches us to read such strange ways. I'm looking at the word Pepsi right now. That's not even a word, but it is.
It's got pep in it.
It's put some pep in the step. Well, Sean, we've been rocking it for a little while now. I think we can bring this impromptu little Relicbuds Kickstarter update chat to a close.
Yeah, this, I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, this is the perfect Relicbuds episode. We did talk about things that are important, but mainly what you get out of it is Malev and Sean hanging out, managing Metal King Studio, managing being nerds.
For real,
imaginary delights.
And as we kind of are navigating this space of trying to add like content creation to the pipeline and stuff, you used a term the other week when we were talking about making videos. You said, well, I did unlock an experience point when it came to, you know, doing this or that, and it's very much like that. You know, we're using this space here to also do a little bit of, I guess it's a kind of meditative decompression when it comes to just unpacking all of the things that we be thinking about, and stuff
and letting
like that.
people in on it.
Yeah, exactly.
I can meditate and be like, what did I learn from it by myself? But you know, I think part of the fun of being able to support indie artists, like, we aren't just like a big opaque studio. You know, we aren't like a big, you know, Lucas Ranch. Who knows what they're getting down on? Like,
yeah. So yeah, letting behind the behind the scenes action is action. But yeah, we're learning as we go, because you dropped over the course of while the Kickstarter was live, you dropped 3 videos, I think.
Yeah, and you know, Mike and I were talking about wanting to record more, but we ended up just focusing on stuff that is actual behind the scenes stuff. You know, like,
oh yeah, like and man,
testing. It would just be confusing if people were like, wait, I thought that game mechanic differently. Like, I can't run you through how Cretaceous Commando works yet, because
we're trying to figure it out. Yeah,
iterations. Yeah.
But, no, I feel it.
But, yeah, this has been super fun. Thank you everyone for tuning in to Relicbuds. Like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon. I'm just repeating stuff I hear every day.
Yeah, I think that's what they say.
Like, subscribe. Join our Patreon, which we haven't set up yet.
Oh yeah, do that yet.
Yeah,
do that.
In fact, will you set up our Patreon page? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we'll get on it. We'll definitely get on it. You guys can just be on the lookout.
Yeah, because we do have to like square away some of the Kickstarter stuff before we get into Patreon. But I think that's something we're going to revisit, because I want to make sure. Yeah, want to make sure that things stay running.
Yeah, we've got a lot of ideas, and we're super excited about it, and we want.
Yeah, and we're sure we can. Yeah, deliver the fun. So, anyways, that's some of the fun stuff. That's some of the fun stuff we've been up to.
Yeah, y'all. I've painted a little bit of this Voton model. Well, and he's pretty cool.
Bonus content.
Yeah, I'm digging him.
Sculpt. What do you think?
They
seem so.
You know, actually, for
40K models.
On like some thinking about painting 40K stuff, actually quite interesting, because there's not a lot of stuff on this model that felt like familiar to me in the 40K sense. Like, I guess the pouches in the gun holster kind of has a bit, and the gun that he's using resembles like a bolter. But
can you hold it up to the webcam so I can see what you're
yeah,
yeah, it's right. They've got like kind of a boltery look, but they also have like a.
But their size,
like video game guys,
and the shape, like the astronaut-y type, like bubble helm aspect, definitely is cool. Like, I would not. I think the kit, like the normal troop kit of the Voton, like little soldier guys, probably a real solid kit.
Yeah.
Okay. But all right, y'all. Relicbuds episode 8. We will catch you guys next time. Much love and peace.